Recently, Linus Tech Tips built a system for Linus Torvalds, creator of the Linux kernel. And the Linux operating system has basically taken over the entire universe for operating systems, except for the desktop. And boy, if Microsoft continues on the trajectory they're on, we've got a fighting chance of the desktop. So this is a build video, but it's not for Linus Torvalds. It's for Greg Crow Hartman. It's that time again. This isn't the first build I've done for Mr. GKH, but this will be a build that makes some very different choices, and also some of the same choices that Linus Tech Tips did. So let's hang on. Yeah. It's time. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about choices. But before getting to that, this video is actually brought to you by serverpartdeals.com. Typically they have mechanical storage. They also have enterprise SSDs. They have well below market rate enterprise SSDs, and they give you the actual smart statistics for the drives, and they let you see how much wear they have on them before you buy them. And they've generally been really good about the warranty service. You can check the level 1 community. I've been buying stuff from Server Part Deals for years before they were doing ads, but they're doing ads. And so they've supplied some money, some cash money, because this doesn't have mechanical storage or anything else that I can use, in order to help defray the costs of this also. So big thank you to Server Part Deals. Now, if you're in a company, I know a lot of you are CIO, CTO trajectory in your careers, and your company has surplus equipment, you should also check out Server Part Deals because they buy stuff. So you can call Server Part Deals and say, hey, I've got 200 of this drive. Let's negotiate. They're not interested in your drawer full of old hard drives. They need stuff that's actually modern, stuff that doesn't have 500,000 hours of power on time, stuff that is not end of life. It's like, oh, the company pivoted. We're not doing that project anymore. Now is the time to liquidate. You could probably get more out of it than you paid for it because of the storage shortages and everything else. And I think it's probably going to get worse. I've got major FOMO. I'm buying a lot of storage. So again, thanks to Server Part Deals for sponsoring this video. Woo! All right, so let's do some rambling about my choices for components. And again, it's like this is not the first time that I've chosen this case. This is the Fractal Torrent. It's also the case that Linus chose for Linus, because Linus gonna Linus. This case, 3 fans in the bottom, 2 huge fans in the front, and the top is closed. The closed top actually makes a bigger difference for noise dampening than you would expect. And Fractal doesn't sell this as a noise dampened case. There's not even any noise dampening material in the side here like they do with their Define 7. And I added a rear exhaust fan, 140 millimeter, which is Arctic, by the way. The tower cooler here is the 4UM from Arctic. I love it. It's great. It was a tough choice. We'll talk about that in a second. And then also our 140 mil exhaust fan. It was not an easy choice to choose this case again. I almost chose the Asus ProArt case, and it also has 2 giant fans in the front. Asus gives you some options for the top part of it, mesh cooling, all that sort of stuff. That case is bigger than this case. It is bulkier than this case. It is heavier than this case. It is very, very slightly quieter than this case. But the top is mesh, and because it was a little bigger and a little more bulky, and because this has to be shipped kind of a long distance, I chose the Fractal case. And plus also, Mr. GKH already has this exact case, but in gray instead of jet black, for his dual processor build server, and he was okay with that. So I feel like this is fine. There's not anything that dramatically improves on this. I really wish the front I/O was a little more rich. Like, considering this versus the ProArt's got a lot more USB options at the top. It's got a little place in the back you can hide your Wi-Fi antenna. Some pretty clever features in that case. This is, this is still a $200 case though in 2026. So, it's fine. He'll be all right. It's easy to clean, dust filter. It's still a little louder than I would like, but 64 cores, which, by the way, thanks AMD. AMD sent over not just a 64-core threadripper processor, but also a 32 gig Radeon AI Pro R9700. Now, special request from Mr. GKH was AMD graphics. Linus Torvalds, he went Intel. Makes sense. I mean, I get it. But Mr. GKH, the R9700. The R9700 32 gigs. Yes. It's a very nice GPU. It's basically a 9070 XT, but with 32 gigs of VRAM instead of 16. And big thanks to AMD for sending that. But also a little bit of guilty adventure with that, because not only can it game, it can also do AI stuff. So maybe he'll have a little bit of fun with that and rock him and everything else, and like the hardware side of that. So he's going to get the Sapphire AMD Radeon AI Pro R9700. So that's good. The motherboard is also a tough choice. Asus is what I went with. I actually went with the TRX50 Sage Wi-Fi A, because it has a little different layout, and because it has a little different layout and it's a little newer board, it is easier to cool the memory. But if the criteria is only cooling the memory, there's the Gigabyte AI top. These came from Micro Center, courtesy of Level 1. This is another Threadripper machine with the Gigabyte AI top, but it's not a Threadripper Pro, it's just a regular Threadripper. We only got 4 DIMMs in there, 8 DIMM slots. It doesn't magically let you use 8 DIMMs on a Threadripper non-Pro CPU. Threadripper is 4 memory channels, Threadripper Pro is 8 memory channels. But it is a unique motherboard in that it does give you an upgrade path if you swap from a Threadripper to a Threadripper Pro later. And also one unique advantage, those DIMMs are really far apart. If you've got a Threadripper CPU, it's a lot easier to cool the memory on that. And this one also has that Silverstone 360 cooler that I really like in a Corsair case. I debated about a layout like this for Greg Kroah-Hartman, and this is an unusual motherboard. It would probably be a good fit for him. But ultimately I decided on the Asus motherboard. I don't mind the forbidden Huawei GPU there in the bottom. It's crunching some numbers, we're doing some experiments. We'll see how things go with the Huawei GPUs, because, you know, why not? For storage, I'm giving Mr. Kroah-Hartman one of my beloved P5800X PCIe Gen 4 Optane SSDs. It is PCIe Gen 4, but you will not get a faster mass storage device in terms of latency. Lowest latency ever. And Fractal gives us a nice mounting option for that right there. Now, it's only 800 gigabytes. That's the drawback. For bulk storage, Kioxia. Kioxia coming in clutch. Kioxia is supplying a CM7 for this build. This is the E3 version of the CM7. I don't know if I'm going to send him the E3 version or a U.2 version, but it's going to be one of those two. And this is high-speed bulk storage. This is no slouch. It doesn't slow down with writes or anything like that. An M.2 probably would have been fine, but I like to go a little bit overboard. Now, the motherboard has another interesting feature, and that is dual DisplayPort in. So you can go from the graphics card into the motherboard, and that will enable the graphics part of the USB-C ports. And so that's neat, because if he wants to relocate this machine to another room, he could run optical Thunderbolt cables, and that would tunnel both display and USB to somewhere else. So he's going to have options. The Level 1 Tech store actually has some extender type devices, so maybe I can, throw some of that in and we'll see how it goes. Now for cooling, what I've configured, the 2 front fans for intake, 3 fans in the bottom for intake, the rear fan here for exhaust, and then we've got 2 fans on the CPU tower. Now this is an Arctic 4UM. Now whether you've got the 24 core CPU, Linus, I see what you did, and the 64 core, the power in the TDP is basically the same. It's just the number of chiplets. Number of chiplets, 64, the heat is spread out, it's diffused. This is a tower cooler. An AIO would keep this CPU cooler, and it was very tempting to try the Silverstone XE360. We've covered the Silverstone XE360 in a bunch of other builds. If we had gone with the XE360, I probably would have gone with a different case. I could have mounted the cooler in the front. It probably would have made the most sense to put the cooler in the bottom, but I think the tower cooler, like this machine's probably going to be used for like 10 years. Maybe not continuously, maybe not as the primary machine, but it's probably going to live for a really long time. Now, Silverstone builds their AIOs to be used in a server context, and I have been using the oldest XE360 24/7 since I got it about 4 years ago, and it is not showing any signs of degradation, which is, really something for an AIO. But all things being equal here, this is what I chose. I also like this case for the airflow, the front to back airflow. The DDR5 memory here can get a little warm. You may be wondering why I did not choose Threadripper Pro, and it is again airflow and heat generation. Double the DIMMs is double the heat production, is double the amount of air that you're going to have to move, and that historically has been a little problematic. It's also sort of difficult to get memory. In case you're wondering what memory is in here, I have not fully decided yet. Right now, it has 4 96 gig DIMMs in it. Those are like $2,500 each. I've only borrowed those. I don't know that I can give those away. So I got to figure that out. If I can't give those away, chances are he's going to end up with 256 gigs of memory. That's 64 gig DIMMs, because that's really all there is right now. There's not really another option for memory. I've got the word out to Micro Center. Maybe Micro Center will be able to find something, pull something from the back office. Not really sure, but we'll see. And finally, power supply. Power supply, it's hard to go wrong with a name brand quality power supply. Seasonic, FSP, Cooler Master, Silverstone, 80 plus gold, platinum, titanium. You get a lot of options for power supplies. With a build like this, minimum 850 watts. 1,000 watts, 1,200 watts would be better, give you some flexibility for future expansion. I've opted to go for an 850 watt power supply. My recommendation would be FSP. So FSP makes server power supplies in significant quantity, and they are making regular desktop ATX power supplies as well. I would love to put a redundant power supply in here. FSP actually makes a redundant ATX power supply, but Greg asked me to make his machines as quiet as possible, and a redundant power supply and quiet do not go together in this form factor. Fortunately, because it is a standard ATX power supply, if something happens, he'll be able to replace the power supply and everything will be fine. So there's that option. This build ends up having a 2.5 gig NIC and a 10 gig NIC. Tons of USB connectivity because of the Asus Sage A motherboard. The front panel connections are fine. We have, the dual 3.5mm. I think he'll be pretty happy with this build. This is really not a lot different than what he's used to, and should perform really well. Arch BTW, but more fun and adventures about that later. And that's pretty much it for this build. I've got one SlimSAS port that's free. Our other SlimSAS port is connected to that Optane drive. I don't want to use SlimSAS for our CM7 because those are limited to PCIe Gen 4. I really wish on this refresh board, Asus would have gone for a PCIe Gen 5 MCIO header. You see those on Threadripper Pro motherboards. ASRock Threadripper Pro actually has 2 PCIe Gen 5 MCIO headers. And so there's a couple little things in this build where it's yeah, Threadripper Pro might have been a better choice, but 64 cores, a lot of cache. It's going to compile the kernel really, really fast, and also be decently fast for the Optane and NVMe storage and everything else. If you're thinking about building a system like this and you have questions, come hang out in the forum, ask questions, chat. We can run some benchmarks on things. It's always a lot of fun. I whittled this level 1. Once again, building a machine for Mr. Greg Crow Hartman, Linux kernel maintainer. And thanks to AMD for providing the parts for this build. And thanks to you for tuning in and watching and helping pay for the rest of the parts. Yay, community. All right, I whittled this level 1. If you have any questions or I missed anything, hit me up in the forum. I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.